everybody, Brandon and Evan here from The Peel. We're going to be talking to you today about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which we saw this afternoon and had some pretty decisive opinions on it, I think. So I'm going to start off asking Evan, just how'd you feel about the movie in general?
I thought it was a pretty good flick. I'm not the biggest fan of director David Yates, at least in regard to the Harry Potter films. I left with a really big sour note on Half-Blood Prince because he totally nixed and flubbed Dumbledore's death/funeral, mainly the funeral. There was no funeral, there was no mourning for this instrumental character of 6 movies, and it was just kind of, let's hold our wands up in the air. So this 2.5 movie, it's split up, obviously. We saw part 1. Very well paced. I love the cinematography, and overall good. It still had some of its just like terrible acting moments and just weird direction decisions that we can talk about later, but overall good. I mean, on par. I think most of the movies are good, but probably a little better than Half-Blood Prince because I wasn't so mad at the end.
What do you think was the biggest improvement from Half-Blood Prince?
The whole Dumbledore's. I mean, part of it is I cherish that book so much, but I didn't feel like anything was, I guess, missed to that great extent. There were definitely miscues, but all in all, the overall pacing and everything, the mood was just darker, and it ended on a darker tone. The fact that the 6th movie had to end on this sunset, like, we're gonna go defeat Voldemort, we'll do it together, Harry. All right, Ron and Hermione. It was just cheesy. And this, don't get me wrong, it has its cheesy points, but
sunset at the tower.
Yeah, but the mood, it's got a better overall mood, I feel, to it. Very, like, dreary, dark.
What were some of your favorite acting mishaps in the movie?
Definitely, I probably was the only person in the theater who laughed out loud when, first off, when Bill Weasley's introduced. He's a character that, in the books, obviously, is introduced earlier. He hasn't been in the movies, which is fine. But he comes in and he goes up to Harry basically and he says, "Hi, I'm Bill Weasley. Look at my scar that I got that was
verbatim
that
quote.
was nixed from the books." And they decided, well, we better throw it in there, so we're going to make it as awkward and awful as possible. And they do. I looked for many GIF images of this ridiculous "Hi, Bill" scar face, and the scar is even like she said, it's like it's supposed to be a vicious scar, and it's 3 lines across his face. I mean, I could draw it with a marker. It's not too terrible. And then Bill comes back later when Mad-Eye Moody dies, and they're all there together, and he just kind of like casually's like, "Mad-Eye died," and everybody just
okay.
kind of like...
And here we go.
I just died laughing because it's like, all right, another major character, and whoop, he's dead. Who cares?
Yeah, I guess that poor acting is really what speaks for itself there, and whether it be, and I understand that the lack of foresight in the directing of the movies, and maybe even in J.K. Rowling's like final say so and what should be included is an issue with like the whole Bill and Fleur and the setting of the wedding, and was a problem. But the acting itself, if there had been more emotion, it might have been a little more like convincing, and they could have pulled it off slightly better. But
I don't think the overall acting for the movie was terrible. I think there's
that's all right.
a couple of terrible moments, but the overall acting, I think there was some really good performances. The actress that plays Luna Lovegood since the 5th movie has been awesome. I think most of the adult characters nail it. I mean, I love Beatrix, Voldemort by Ralph Fiennes. I think he does a good job. I mean, Alan Rickman as Snape. There's a lot of good performances, but Daniel Radcliffe definitely has his moments, and Bill is a minor character that I think they should have just left out. He just comes in and does a poor job. But I think it really comes down to the 3 main ones, Ron, Hermione, and Harry. They've grown up under the screen. They weren't like actors with a history like the older adult actors, so they have some moments. It's gotten better, I think, in my opinion, but there's definitely some weird moments, and part of that has to do with the directing style. They decide for Harry and Hermione to ease the tension to do this awkward dance that's supposed to be a friend dance, but definitely comes across more like lovers, intimate than I think it should. And just a bizarre choice, I think, to ease the tension. I think there could have been other ways to do it, but like I said, I think overall the acting's good, but there are definitely some points in it that are just really flat out awful that bring it down.
So you're basically saying that your biggest qualm is really just the directing style?
Here and there, I mean, we talked about this earlier with Daniel Radcliffe. I don't think he's a terrible actor, but with Harry Potter, you're expressing a lot of like internal emotions. So the way to get that across is being physically expressive on screen. And that's not exactly his strong suit. I don't feel like, especially facially, he doesn't do the best job. I mean, at one point, he takes Polyjuice and he turns into a member of the Ministry of Magic, and they go and investigate in there to look for items. And the actor who portrays Harry there does such a fantastic job with how he kind of walks weirdly, and then he goes through a list of people who have either been dead or hopefully will be killed by Voldemort and his followers. And just the expressions when he sees like Hermione on the list, or especially Dumbledore, like I cared more then than I've cared for like Harry at all. Just the way he brings that across and the way he looks on his face. So I think that's one of the main downfalls. But I mean, these kids were cast when they were 10, so it's kind of tough, especially as a director. You're kind of inherit that you can't go out and change everything.
I don't know. I guess I'd play the devil's advocate for that part, since they were cast when they were 10, and supposedly in movie years, this is 7 years later. I kind of think that at what point, like, are they going to show that kind of chemistry? Are they going to show the adaptation of the character? I mean, they've been playing it. This is the 7th movie now that Daniel Radcliffe has to be Harry Potter. Like, you think he'd get it at this point. Like, I feel like he's right up there with, like, Keanu Reeves for facial expressions. It's just, nothing's happening. Overall, do you have any like final thoughts on the movie itself?
I think it's interesting to see where it's going to go with the second part. Hopefully, it's at least 2.5 hours. This was a 2.5 hour film, so a lot more has been included from the books, and I feel like the extra time has definitely allowed it to develop better. And like I said, I feel like the pacing's a lot better, possibly
the pacing
better,
was good.
Possibly better than the 6th and 5th. I mean, it felt like it moved along, and there were some really cool transitions, and definitely some really cool scenes, but then some misused with some weird cues. I guess one of my thoughts was the whole Godric's Hollow was pretty well. I mean, just the snow falling, it's Christmas Eve. There's a couple weird acting quirks in it that's funny, but the whole snake bit where they're battling the snake, I think, was fantastic. I think that's one of the highlights. I think the end scene at Malfoy's residence with Beatrix and everything, Bellatrix, sorry, was rather well done. I liked all of it. Once again, there's some things I didn't like, but all in all, I thought it flowed very well and had that nice sense of tension. And then, spoilers for people who haven't read it, but it still irks me that Dobby dies in the end and he gets more of a send-off than a lot of characters. Dumbledore, Sirius Black, Mad-Eye Moody. I mean, these people who we like loved and were around, and I like Dobby. He doesn't annoy me. He's not like Jar Jar. I know some people may think he's the Jar Jar of Harry Potter. I liked him, thought he was funny. But to get this emotional send-off is just, comparatively to these other people, is just like, no, I don't know about that, but I'm excited about the second part. I thought the first part was good, and the second part's just going to be absolutely nuts.
What would you give the movie overall on our Peel scale?
I wish I could bend the Peel scale to go to like 3.5 out of 5 Peels. I want to say, first time through, I'd probably give it 3 Peels. I think it's a good movie, but to rise above that, I think maybe the second part will. There's just too many things, like I said, that still kind of irk me. Yeah, otherwise it'd be 4, but I mean, I still recommend it. You're going to see it if you're a Harry Potter fan. Yeah. And overall, I think there's some really cool things. I mean, production overall is fantastic. So, and visually, it's a striking movie. Like I said, the cinematography is great. Even outside of Hogwarts. It's all outside of Hogwarts, which I love, but now it's outside of it, so it gives it a different flavor.
Good. Well, thanks. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Check out the peelblog.tumblr.com for further movie info.